So I'd planned on making this video down the line. So I'm not really prepared for this video, so I don't exactly know where it's going to go. I'm just going to talk from my heart, from my brain. And it might be a little bit of a lengthy video, but I implore anyone to watch it all the way through, especially if you struggle with mental health problems. I'm going to talk about me, my personal mental health journey, and where I'm at now, and the importance of looking after your mental health in general. This is inspired by the unfortunate, terrible passing of Reckful, gaming legend, streaming legend. A lot of people know who he is. I know who he is. I watched him on World of Warcraft, a lot when I was younger. Younger than I am anyway. And I didn't really have any emotional connection to him, but it was still just a bit of a wow. Because a lot of people think that mental health can't harm people who have everything. And that's the kind of depiction, especially of streamers and, popular influencers. But realistically, it can. And the reality is that a lot of people just get missed, and people don't realize what's actually happening to someone's brain and how they're feeling and where they're at and potentially what they may do. Rest in peace, Reckful. If anyone out there is struggling with mental health, let me just tell you, suicide is a permanent choice over a temporary problem. Now, that sounds kind of cliche, but that temporary problem for a lot of people becomes a permanent problem because they don't get the right help. They don't talk to the right people. So I implore you, if you're ever at the point of wanting to commit suicide, phone local suicide hotlines for wherever you live, wherever you are, and, get some help, talk to a GP, talk to a doctor. They'll put you in the right direction of where to go in terms of therapy and any help that you might need. Because as little as you feel about your life and how important you are, you could change the world one day and you don't even know. But apart from that, you could just have a good life. You can have a good life. You can have a life filled with happiness and joy. You just have to take that action and going to talk to somebody and getting some help. I don't remember a day when I was happy. And I mean, really, really, truly happy. I don't think I know what that feeling is, because whenever I get to a place where that feeling exists in my life, my mental health is always there, eating away at that joy, eating away at that happiness, eating away at that positivity. Because for a lot of period in my life, I never got the right help. Very, very, very fortunately, I am still here somehow, because God knows it's been multiple times that I've been on the edge. I couldn't even count the amount of suicide letters and suicide notes that I've written and then torn up and thrown away. I struggle with a lot of negative mental health problems. At least I did. Well, I can't say at least I did in the past, but in the past couple of years, things have improved massively since I was diagnosed with autism. And that was because I realized why I was having all those mental health problems is because I was an undiagnosed autistic for 30 years. And that made my life very, very difficult and challenging and all sorts of things. And maybe one day I'll talk more in depth about my autism journey. But for right now, prior to that, I would say out of the 30 years of my life, I'd say there's a good 10 years worth of days where I just wanted to die. I would go to sleep hoping that I wouldn't wake up, and I would wake up feeling sad that I did. And I never understood why or what was happening to me. And as a man, in this world, whenever you try to talk about those things, you get told to man up. You get told to, oh, well, what have you got to worry about? You've got a job, blah, blah, blah. There's always these responses that just completely negate the health problems that you have. And that really sucks, believe me, because I'm very much a open, honest person when it comes to feelings and such things. until I'm in a position where I trust somebody, and then for some weird reason I close up, which again causes more issues and more problems. But I've always wanted to talk about how I feel and try to figure out why I feel that way, but I never did it the correct way. I entrusted people around me, friends and stuff, who didn't really have the understanding or knowledge to talk to me about those things, and would get frustrated, get upset, and walk away from me in their life because they saw me as a lost cause that they couldn't help, which then obviously impacts my mental health even more, because I was sitting there thinking, well, what's wrong with me? Like, what's happening? Why don't people like me? Why don't people want to be around me? This stems way back from when I was in primary school, so like 8, 9, 10. It's probably even younger than that. I haven't really thought about the ages I was when I first started struggling, but when I was in primary school, I was a lot chubbier, and when you look like that, you get quote unquote bullied, and I had so many people calling me names every day, and I was every single day I was having like breakdowns and meltdowns to myself personally, away from everyone else, because I couldn't understand why people didn't like me, and that kind of carried through my entire life. My experiences when I was young that kind of instigated my negative mental health carried with me throughout my entire life. And then when more things happened, when more negative things happened, my mental health got worse and worse and worse. And that's the problem with mental health. It's invisible. So no matter what someone does every day, no matter how much they push through and they go to work and they see their friends and they seem happy, it's like a termite in your brain just eating away at you very, very subtly, where a lot of the times you don't even know how consistent that is being taken away from you, that your mental health is attacking you, that is hurting you. So for instance, let me put it this way: if you're in a relationship and you're a healthy, positive person, and that relationship ends, you're going to be sad, you're going to be upset, obviously you're going to be stressed out, but you're going to find it easier to move forward. But if you have negative mental health and you have most of your life, it becomes very, very difficult to move away from something that you thought was positive, that you thought was the first positive thing in your life to ever happen. And then your mental health takes a massive, like horrible dip. And that's happened to me multiple times. So the thing that I've really obviously suffered with was, like psychosis, not understanding the world, where I fit in it, who I am. I didn't have no sense of being. I was struggling with pretty much everything. I had insecurities, confidence issues, self-esteem issues my entire life, still do. I had depression, I had massive anxiety and massive stress, which I now can tie to being undiagnosed autistic, which helps me now. But, growing up, it didn't help me at all, because I just didn't understand the world. The way I explain it to people now is, the world is, just a turning wheel. It just continues and whatever. People live in it, and, life happens. But for me, I always felt like I was a shadow on that world. And while the world was turning and I was turning with it, it was like I was just on another realm or something, like I was on a different plane of existence to everybody else. And that kind of really made me struggle most of my life to connect to people, to have friends, to have relationships, to hold down jobs. And on top of that, all my traits of autism obviously added to that and made things even harder. So I spent a lot of my life wanting to not be alive, which is really, really horrible when you say it out loud. Like I said, I genuinely can't remember the last time I felt happy without all this negative stuff on top of it. And, it was only until I was diagnosed autistic that I started to make sense of things. And even though I still struggle with anxiety and stress, at least now I know why. Like I have a reason, I have an idea of what's happening, so I can have coping mechanisms and learn to control it and move forward. And it's hard. It really is. Like mental health is probably worse than having physical health problems. I've had epilepsy most of my life. I was like 16 when I was diagnosed, and that becomes quite a problem in itself. And I've recently just had a seizure, and I'm only just getting over it after like 2.5 months, and I'm still in a lot of pain and stuff like that. And that obviously affects your mental health as well. But I'd rather take the physical pain than the mental pain that I've felt for so long. Like, I've had negative mental health so often that when something good may happen in any way, shape or form, if it's a little thing, if it's a big thing, I just can't see it. And even if I do see it, I can't believe it, because I've spent most of my life not feeling worthy of being a person, of being alive. So when something good happens, I think it's a trick. I think that people are out to get me, that something's going to happen, that I'm being set up. And these are kind of like the wild thoughts that go through my head. And then when I get put into a positive position, relationship, job, whatever it is, I sabotage it unwillingly because of how negative my mental health has been and what I've experienced in my past. And like I said, it doesn't matter what you've got, it doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter how famous you are. If you've had those mental health problems, they don't just go away. You have to get support, you have to get help. And that's why I implore anyone having these feelings and stuff like that to go to a doctor, to speak to someone, anyone, to have someone put you in the correct position, the appropriate position for you to get the help and support that you need. Now, for me, since I was diagnosed with autism, it was an eye-opener. It really was. It changed everything about me. It changed the way I viewed the world. It changed the way I understood the world. It changed the way I understood people and how different I am to people, even though I'm also very normal in the same sense. But I've kind of found a place in this world, and it's not everything that I want. It's not everything I want to be. It's not everything I want to achieve. But for the first time ever in my life, I actually feel like a person, like I exist, and that's a weird thing to say. And quite frankly, it's because of the people that I met through being diagnosed as autistic. Up until the very day that I went to visit a charity that I now volunteer for, I wanted to kill myself, even after I was diagnosed with autism, because I very quickly learned the discrimination and the problems that people with autism face before I even got help and learned more about autism. Because when I was phoning around trying desperately to get help, the GPs weren't that great. They weren't really doing much. They were sending me to places that I didn't need to go to, like CBT therapy, which obviously just doesn't help a lot of people with autism. It can help, but it doesn't. So I went around phoning charities on top of charities, and I was refused and told that they couldn't help me because I was too old. Because funding here for autism is 100, well, not 100%, but like 90% is to invest in children and stuff. And I even got told on the phone by a charity worker, and I'm not blaming the charity. I think it was just the receptionist said something very stupid to me at a time where I just didn't need to hear it. And she said, we only work with children because they still have a chance. That really impacted me, because I'd already had negative mental health about not feeling like I exist, not feeling like a person, not feeling like I have hope or a chance. And then I had this person who was one of my last chances say, oh, you don't have a chance. So I just gave up, and I genuinely I was done. I'd had enough. And one of the days where I planned to take my life, I got a phone call from Autism West Midlands, and they asked me, do I want to take part in their 6-week course on understanding and learning autism? And I was at the point of just saying no, because I was just gone. I was gone from this world. But something just sparked in me and said, this is the last chance. So I said, yeah, okay. But I had no hopes, nothing at all. And I'd already done research on autism online, stuff like that. And I just felt like there was nothing left for me in this world. Like I was gone. Like that was it. And then I went to the course on the first day, and everything changed. It was phenomenal. The people that I met there, the stories that I heard, people saying very silly, stupid sounding things, and then me going, oh my God, I do that. Or, oh my God, that happens to me. Oh my God, I feel like that. And it just made me feel like I am not alone. Like, because my entire life I felt like I was just the loneliest person in the world. And that comes from mental health and obviously autism too. So I faced a lot of challenges all throughout my life that I didn't understand. And how can you fight a challenge or fight anxiety, fight stress, fight depression when you don't know why it's happening? And when I was diagnosed and I went to Autism West Midlands, I just fell in love with who I was as an autistic person, because I'd finally found an identity. And mental health still affects me to this day, and I think it always will, but I have a better control over it now because I've found the right help. And it wouldn't be fair for me to finish this video without talking about one very special person in my life right now, a friend of mine who I actually met through Autism West Midlands too. And after my 6-week period of going there and learning about autism, that's all they kind of funded for. And I knew that if I left at that point, I would just fall back into my life because there would be no focus, there'd be no moving forward. And I asked if I could volunteer and help out, which they allowed me to do. You can't allow everyone to volunteer, but they told me that they thought I would be really good in the position, and apparently I am. They tell me I am, and I just, for me, it's very hard to accept, as I said, because of mental health problems, because of experience. But I have got to work with so many people with autism and mental health problems in very different ways, which has helped me understand it on a grander scale, but also how it affects me on a grander scale, mental health and autism. So it's been very therapeutic for me, and such a learning curve and a learning experience, where I'm actually probably for the first time in my life in a semi-healthy part of my life. Like, I'm actually feeling quite good, and that's one of the reasons why I came back to YouTube too, because I was in a position where I thought, okay, I think I can cope with this now. And then I met a volunteer, which I will not name because it's not fair, but she knows who she is, and if she's watching this, hi, I miss you. We work side by side with lots of people with autism, and she is a trained counselor, therapist. I don't know what to call her specifically, because obviously that changes over the world from country to country. So we spend a lot of time helping other adults with autism and stuff like that, but we also talk a lot. And for the first time in my life, I'm talking to someone who just genuinely understands me, because she's neurotypical. She doesn't have autism. Well, not diagnosed anyway. We've had discussions about her potentially having autism, but she's worked with so many people that she has quite good experience with autism. So that's not something I have to feel scared about to talk with her, because I know that she has experience with it. But we talk about everything across the board, and even if it's not to do with mental health and autism, just things in general, we have such like a connection from mind to mind that when we talk, I feel whole. Like, I just feel good about where I am in life. And I think because of the trajectory of my mental health was so low, and then once I started doing all this stuff, it got so high. I think she has been that consistent cog in my brain to keep me at that positive level. And I've had slips. I've went back down and fell back down in mental health, challenges and depression and anxiety, because that's just normal. That's life. Especially someone who is autistic, who feels those feelings on a much deeper, intense level. So I have slipped back, but I'm in a much better position I am now because of Autism West Midlands, and definitely because of her, my friend. And yeah, so mental health is very, 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 very real, or negative mental health, I should say, because obviously everyone has mental health. Some people have positive, some people have negative. Negative mental health is a killer. It kills people all the time, and it doesn't matter who they are, what they've done, how much money they've got, how famous they are. It can affect anybody. And the culture we live in today, especially online, people can say whatever they want to someone, and they can be as nasty and as horrible to someone, but just know that comment that you might make anonymously to someone, it could be the end of that person's life because of something you say that just resonates with their negative mental health and puts them over the edge. So yeah, I think this has gone on long enough. I think I've covered most stuff. I just wanted to kind of get my thoughts out there, and this was going to be more of a structured video down the line, but circumstances, I just wanted to talk and get stuff out. Yeah, it sucks when someone loses that battle, but at the end of the day, people say it's selfish act and all that, but that person is in such a bad place where they just feel that. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine being in a place, and I've been there before, can you imagine being in a place where your only option is to die? Like that's the only logical thing in your brain, or at least what your brain's telling you to be logic, is to die. Now obviously mental health and negative mental health and challenges and stress and depression and anxiety kind of change the balance in your brain and kind of tricks you into believing that that's the only option. But imagine being in that position where everything you've ever had, known, or understood in your life just becomes not important anymore, and the only thing that's left is to die. If you ever feel like that, if you ever have any kind of negative mental health problems, get the right help. Phone suicide hotlines. Just Google your local suicide hotline, whatever. I know here in the UK, Samaritans are excellent, so get in touch with the Samaritans and get the proper help that you need, the appropriate help that you need, because you do matter, and you can have a normal, happy life. Case in point, I'm getting there. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there, and I've spent 30 years of my life not wanting to be alive. And now for me, it's kind of like, I don't really have any social life. I don't really have any friends. I don't have a relationship. I don't have a job at the moment, but I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my life, weirdly enough. So yeah, that's it really. Thank you for watching. I've been easynow. You guys have been awesome.